Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the last video of the night. This is video number 13, 14, 15, something like that. I've been very busy and very productive. This is also the final video for Algebra 1 Goal 3 as I walk you through the last couple of topics necessary to get you guys DSA ready. We're going to start with there are 3 topics that I have highlighted. One of them, which is the one I'm going to start with, are painfully easy. One of them is a trick question that I can make easy, and one of them is, honest to God, yes, ladies and gentlemen, you need to use your reading skills. So, as we go through this, we're going to start with the easy one first. We've been talking about this on and off throughout the chapter to begin with. Domain is your x, and then range is your y. So when you're looking at an ordered pair like this, that means that is going to be your first number and your range is going to be your second number. So when you're looking for domain and for range, all you're doing is you're going to slap on a pair of squiggle brackets. Please pardon the very technical jargon. Put up some squiggle brackets and then start listing. So domain is your x, which is your first number, so 0, 8, 4, and D. 0, 8, 4, and D. Like literally that's all you're doing. Range is your y, which is your second number. So we have B, 8, D, 4. So we have B, 8, D, 4. Like I don't even know if it's necessary for me to do a second example because that's how easy this is going to be when you are doing it out. All right, so domain and range. Domain is your x, so we have 9, -5, -9, and -9. So 9, -5, -9, and we don't have to worry about listing something twice. So once I've listed it the first time, I don't need to worry about doing it the second time. Range is these numbers, which is -1, 9, -2, and 0. So there's your easy peasy. Now I want to give you one that looks really hard, but I love making easy for kids. Miss, it's a word problem, I hear you saying. So what I want to talk about first in the actual problem are the things that you want to look for. Hands down, the most important thing you want is the equation, and then there is somewhere in this paragraph an extra number that they're going to give you, okay? And I want to explain how you're going to use both of those pieces. So this is your x, right? Because we're using our formula of y equals mx plus b. And like we were just talking about up in this topic over here, your x is your domain. So what that means is even though we don't have an x or a y, this letter here, the D, that's going to be my domain. And I didn't even need to do any thinking. So if I look at any one of these problems and I zoom in on the equation, boom, the one that has the x or in the place where the x goes, there we go, that's going to be your domain. So what does D actually mean? That I have to look up. D is the number of days. Number of days. Boom. No thought required whatsoever. And then range by default is the other option, the length of the road. Now for the set of values, you can kind of see that they have a drop down here, and that makes a screen grab kind of hard because I can't explain what it is that they're doing. But this is where your extra number that you kept an eye out for starts coming into play. Your domain is always, without fail, always, bold, underline, italics, going to go from 0 to some kind of number that they give you. And in this case, what's the number that they give you? 90 days. All right? So whatever the drop down is here, whatever one that says 0 to 90, that's the one you want to be grabbing. Next up, length of the road. What is our options here? This is where your y-intercept is because you're going to be given another list of random numbers. The one you're looking for is your first number. And the thing that you want to do is you want to match your y-intercept, okay? So we can go off to whatever number it wants, your y-intercept. So in this case, what's my y-intercept? My y-intercept is 400. So whatever thing in my drop-down starts with 400 off to something else, that's the option that I want to choose. So because I have those little tricks in my head, my reading comprehension skills are less necessary because I now know what it is that I'm looking for. So back over here, new verse, same as the first. Where's my equation? There it is. Where's my extra number? There it is. So let's be wild and crazy and let's go out of order. I know that the set of values for my domain is going to be whatever set they give me that goes from 0 to 70. I didn't even need to read the problem once I highlighted what I needed. For my set of values for my range, I know it's going to be, what number is my y-intercept? I know it's going to be whatever set that starts from 400 and goes off for eternity to the other number. I didn't even need to read the problem. For this one, however, let's see here. Domain is where my x goes, which means that it's going to be my t. So this is my domain. All right, so what does t represent? This I do have to read. T is the total number of minutes. So number of minutes in the pond, and then the amount of water. And you can see how much faster I was able to do that once I knew what my cheats were, okay, how I could break this down. This is the love part of the love-hate relationship with the software. Word problems tend to fall into the love category for the software because you can break it down and cheat the system that easily. Now, again, what are my big takeaways? I have this, and then where's my extra number? Right there. All right, so again, I'm not going to do any thinking. I just know that this is going to be from 0 to 80, and I know this is going to be from, what's my y-intercept? 500 to whatever number they give me. Next up, domain. Domain has to deal with my actual formula, which in this case is the t. And what does t represent? T is the total number of minutes. So yet again, it's the total number of minutes, and this is the amount of water in the pond. So there you go. That is one topic that visually looks very scary, but with a couple of cheats actually becomes really, really simple. And that's how Ms. Dubois' brain kind of works. Last one. This is another DSA question, just like the one we just did. This one is a little bit harder because you have to think about independent and dependent. These are actually science words. So I'll give you a second to think about that. Now you'll have to forgive me for a second because I have to pretend I know anything about science. If I get any of this wrong, you have my permission to tell Mr. Milligan so that he can tease me. Now, first things first, when you're looking for independent variables, those are things like your inputs. That's one of your keywords. Sometimes it's going to be your x if you have something in y equals mx plus b format. What else? Well, those are your key ones. Dependent is going to be your output. Your y, again, if you have something in y equals mx plus b format. But you can kind of tell as I scroll down, not all of them are given it to us in that easy a manner. So like this one is pretty simple because there's my x and there's my y. Independent is going to be my x, so therefore b is my independent here. Let's see here. Part-time job entering the data, nope, no good. Price and varies, nope. Input, okay, input, so that's my domain. And then output is R, so that's my range. What are in domain range, Mr. Block? That's my independent, and that's my dependent. That's what I get for doing these topics in the same breath. What is the independent variable? Independent is going to be our input, which is C. But then, if you notice, this only helps for certain types of problems. For the rest of them, what you kind of want to do is rearrange your sentence to say something depends on something. That's what you're sort of visually doing, or mentally. This is where your reading skills, you can't shy out of them and you can't work around them. You have to lean on everything Ms. Leavenworth has been teaching you. So part-time job, the amount of data she enters affects her pay. So you have to ask yourself, does data depend on pay, or does pay depend on data? And in this case, pay depends on data. I find when it's written this way, since that's your dependent variable, you now automatically know which is which. It's asking for the dependent variable, so in this case, that's the pay. Car mileage is examining, car mileage, what am I doing? Used car dealer is examining how the price at which a car can be sold varies with the car's mileage. Ooh, varies with, okay. So that means then, because remember from the earlier video when I was talking about how your y varies directly with your x, this is that format as well. Okay, so independent is the thing that comes after the word varies. What comes after with the word varies? Mileage. And this is where, that's yet another. So we have like 1, 2. Here's a third kind of thing to keep aware of. Here's a fourth thing. There's like so many different ways you can rewrite, reword, or somehow figure out these topics that it becomes a little bit messy. There's no, one thing and you're done kind of cheat. You actually have to kind of go through them and actually think. And I know, oh, the horror, the horror. A teenager thinking, oh, how dare we? Let's see here, mileage depending. Oh, this is the same thing. So what is it? This is price, which is our y, because it varies with our x, which is our mileage. Okay. And so what is the dependent? Dependent is our y, which is the car's price. Ruben has a part-time job entering data. The amount of data affects the pay. Okay, so does pay affect data? Pay affects data. Or is it the other way around? Let me think. Does data affect pay? No, it doesn't. Okay, so what are we looking for? The independent variable. Not affects, Ms. Dubois. Listen to your own advice. Sorry about that. Depends. Pay depends on data. So what's the independent variable? Well, pay is the one that's doing the depending. So data is your increase. So you can kind of see this topic is visually a little bit messy because there's 100 ways you can go about arriving on the same conclusion. And this is one of those rare topics where you actually do have to do the thinking. You're always asking yourself, what depends on what? What depends on what? What depends on what? I mean, if you're looking for a one-off strategy, that's probably the best way to do it. V depends on what B is. Pay depends on what the date is. Price depends on what the mileage is. That's the kind of logic that you're doing when you're going through this. But that is the last of it. Goal 3 is now complete. Goal 4 is now complete. And goal 5 all have video tutorials for you. So there's no excuses. You have all of the resources available for you to start burning through these topics and doing what is necessary in order to get your credit by the end of the year. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. I'll see you in whatever my next collection of videos are for Algebra 1. In the meantime, stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. See you.